Hello and welcome, I'm your Code Monkey, and over here let's build something nice and fun. Let's build a nice live chat window. So here I've got a Unity project and I have a window. I can type in something like hello world, I can send a message, and on the other side over here I've got a web page. And up here it notices that I received a new message. I can read the message and now I can reply. I can say hi there, then send a message, and yep, it is received on the other side. So up here we have some nice two-way communication. I can send messages from one side, received on the other, and go back and forth. So that's a relatively simple thing, but it was a very fun project to build. I definitely enjoyed making this myself. When I post about it, some people asked me to make a tutorial, so that's why I'm making this video. Now I made this specifically for my problem-solving course. So this is the course that I've been working on for the past few months and I finally released it. It's on teaching the most valuable skill of all, problem solving. And in this course, since this is a more intermediate course, on this I really want to make sure that I was able to help pretty much every student as much as possible. So that's why I made this live chat window, so that way people can ask me questions in real time as they're going through the course. So if they have some kind of issue they cannot solve, some kind of problem they can't figure out, if so, they can really just message me and I can guide them in the right direction. I've also added this same live chat window to my C# course. So if you want to learn everything from the language from beginner to advanced, you can now learn while asking me for help in real time. And right now I'm currently running a Black Friday bundle, which does include the C# course. So check it out with the link in the description. Alright, so here let's learn how to build this. And like I said, this was a very interesting project. It actually involves quite a lot of different technologies. So first of all, for the window itself, I built it inside Unity, which by the way, technically doesn't have to be. There's nothing Unity specific about this, it's just what I use. Then we're going to handle the backend in PHP. It will also involve a SQL database, and it's going to have a little bit of JavaScript. So like I said, a nice fun project. It involves a bunch of different stuff, so let's learn how to build it. Okay, so here I am in a Unity project. First, let's go ahead and build the UI Toolkit window. And like I mentioned, this works with literally anything. This is really just data. So it can be a UI Toolkit window, it can be an IMGUI window, it can be an in-game window, it can be literally whatever you want. In this case, I'm going to make an editor window, and I'm going to use UI Toolkit just because it's quite a bit better than IMGUI. If you don't know the differences between UI Toolkit and Unity UI, if so, then check out this video where I cover the main differences. So here let's build that, and since we're going to be making an editor window, let's make sure to build inside a folder called editor. Any editor things needs to be inside a folder named editor, so inside here I'm going to right click, create, in this case go down into UI Toolkit, and let's create an entire editor window. So let's create this, called the live chat window, and this will automatically create all the files. And if there it is, we've got the three files. In case you're not familiar with UI Toolkit, basically, if you've got a script, this is what handles the logic. Then if you got a CSS file, this is what handles the styling. And then you've got the actual structure of the UI window itself. And over here, here's the default window. So it just says a bunch of things. So yep, set up just like this. Now let's start building our window. So let's go inside this one. So the one that actually has the structure, and let's double click on it. And up here, we've got the nice UI builder window. So here we can easily build and customize it. By the way, I am planning to make a fully detailed UI Toolkit tutorial. Honestly, I've wanted to make that for a very long time, but I never can find the time to do it. But in the next few weeks, I will definitely do it. So over here, I will just cover the basics. But for a lot more details, stay tuned to that video. So over here, let's start off with just a label, which is literally just text. So over here, let's just say, just normal title, just saying live chat. Let's go down into the text tab. Let's put it on some like 20 font size, put it in bold, down the center. There you go, just simple title. Now we're going to want to write things. So for that, we need an input. And for input over here on the controls, let's drag a text field. So let's drag it over here. Yep, we've got it. And now on the inspector, let's give this a proper name because we're going to need to access this through code. Called the input text field. Okay, like this, and for the label, we don't really want that, so let's just remove the text inside the label, and that's really about it. So here we can write our message. Then for the placeholder text, let's just say message. Okay, great. Then obviously we need the button in order to send the message, so let's find over here the button, let's drag it. And for the button, let's call this send message button. And for the text, let's just say send. Okay, so just like this, and to make it a little bit more fun, let's put it side by side as opposed to being one on top of the other one. So for that, we need to be a little bit clever with how we organize visual elements. This is basically how UI Toolkit is set up. Like I said, I'm going to cover that in a lot more detail in the detailed tutorial. Over here, I'm just going to show how I can do this. So I just drag the visual element. Then I'm going to put both of these two inside a visual element. And over here on this visual element, which is basically just a container. On this one over here on flex, which is basically what modifies the size of this. On this, I'm going to put both shrink and grow at 0, so it doesn't neither shrink nor grow. And over here for the direction, instead of being vertical, let's put it horizontal. So yep, just like this, that's perfect. And now the text message, that one is way too tiny, so on the input text field, over here, let's go on the flex, and let's make it grow. So that way the message grows, and there you go. So now, whatever window size we have, yep, everything looks great. Okay, so far so good. So with this, we can write a message, we can send some text, and then of course we need to actually display what is the chat. So for that, let's use a simple label, so let's drag it on there. And this one, give it the name, so this is the chat label that we're going to dynamically fill in. And for the text, let's just default to just some dots. Okay, yep, so this is our basic setup, so let's go ahead and save it. Now we can exit out of the UI Builder. And over here, let's open up the actual script file. And first thing we do is we should be able to actually open up the window. We can do that using the menu item. So over here, let's use a bit of a better menu. So let's say Code Monkey menu, then live chat window. Then let's also format this, make it look a little bit better. And over here, I don't like this name, M underscore. I never like that. So let me just name visual tree asset, just like this. Then on the onCreate GUI, so this we can leave these defaults, except we don't want to dynamically generate a label through code. Nope, we just want to instantiate our nice visual tree. And then we're going to have the root visual tree asset. And over here, also going to rename this again, just writing some nice clean code. That way everything is set up correctly. And this is the live chat window. Okay, great. So let's save this. Now over here in the editor, we just wait for it to compile and we can already see the Code Monkey menu over there. And now if I go and I open it up, and there you go, the window shows up, but it is empty. And on the console, we can see a null reference exception. So that is basically because we need to select the script file, and over there on the inspector, yep, we've got a reference to the visual tree asset, and we need to make sure to drag this. So let's drag the structure that we just built, drag it over there, and there you go. This one is going to recompile again, and now it should work. So we can now close this window, open it up again, and there you go. Now we've got a nice window. So we've got our message, our send button, and everything works great. Okay, so far so good. Now let's begin making some code. So the way UI Toolkit works is you need to first find the elements and then you can attach logic onto them. The way that we basically access those elements is, first of all, let's start off by going through our root visual tree asset. And then we do queue, meaning we do a query, and we're going to query for some type. So first of all, let's actually grab, let's say the button. So let's grab a button. So we're going to query for a button. And now here's the one part about UI Toolkit that I really dislike. It requires strings for names. As you might know, I hate strings as identifiers. They are so brittle, so easy to make mistakes, so I really dislike this part. I believe there is a better way of doing things. Over here on UI Builder, technically you can use this data source. However, I don't believe it works for what I'm trying to do, but I haven't fully researched this. So anyways, yeah, over here, sadly, we do need to use strings. So let's use the button name, which in this case was the send message button. So we do it like this. This is going to return a button for the send message button. So yep, we have a reference to that. And on this one, we can just register a callback. This is how basically you attach logic to things. In this case, for example, to a button. And we want to attach a click event. So we just use a nice simple delegate. By the way, if you don't know about delegates, check out the lecture on my C# course. So over here, basically this code is going to run whenever we click on this button. So over here for now, let's just verify that it is working. Let's just do a debug.log, say something. Okay, let's test. So over here, let's just open up the window. There it is, click on send, and look there, and there you go, we've got a nice message. All right, so far so good. Now we just need to get a reference to the input text so we can know what text we want to send. So again, same thing. In this case, if it's a type text field, so the input text field, and we go once again, root visual tree asset and do a query. In this case of type text field. And again, we've got to use a string name, input text field like this. So if we have this, and then on the input text field, we've got basically the value. So let's actually store this so we can use it in a separate function. So let's store it up here. Let's go up here, make a private of input text field like that. Okay, yep. And then over here, we basically grab that reference and we assign it. Then let's make a private void send message function. Over here, we're going to get a string message, go inside the input text field, and we just grab the value, which is basically going to be the message. So yep, over here, let's do a debug.log on this message, just make sure this works. And over here, we just call send message like this. So here we are, and if I say hi there and press on send, and there you go, we got the message. Okay, so far so good. Now we have the basics working over here inside Unity. So now let's try to actually send this data somewhere. And for that, we're really just going to use a simple HTTP request, just like I covered in this tutorial. In here, I covered everything from scratch for how you create the Unity web request and how you actually send it. Or alternatively, I also have a web request class inside of my toolkit. So if you have that, you can just use that. But over here, let's quickly build it from scratch. This isn't too difficult. First of all, we just create a new Unity web request. And this one exists inside namespace unityengine.networking. So we have a Unity web request, and we do a brand new one. And this one takes a URL and a method. So for the URL, let's find it up here as a nice constant. So private const string, let's say it's our endpoint URL, and define something. So this is where you need to have some kind of server, some kind of location on the web that you can access. In my case, I'm really just going to be using my own website, and I'm going to make a file there called endpoint.php. So yep, I've got this nice endpoint, and this is what I'm going to be using. So over here on the Unity web request, going to be using this endpoint URL. And then for the method, so this basically get, post, put, and so on. In this case, for the send message, we do want to send some data, so let's use a post. Okay, yep, so this creates a Unity web request. And then we can just go inside the Unity web request, and we call send web request. This one is going to return a async operation. So we can just send, and we can immediately just listen to the completed event. so we can listen to when this happens. This is going to be an async operation, So again, we have another nice delegate. And over here, first we cast it, so we need to convert this one into a Unity web request async operation. So this is something quite a bit more specific to Unity web requests. So we're going to just take the async operation and we cast it as a Unity web request async operation like this. So you have this, and then for example, inside this Unity web request, inside we've got the web request, and inside we've got a result. So let's just do a debug log on this, just to see what this says. Except of course, before we can test this, we need to actually build the endpoint URL. So let's go ahead and build this script now. Okay, so here I've got my endpoint file, and for testing, let's really just return something. And the way I can return with PHP, I can just do an echo, basically that is going to return something. So let's return something and then exit, just make sure nothing else runs. So just like this, super simple. Now we can test. Just need to make sure this file obviously exists on my website. Over here, back on the live chat, so I can send some kind of message, doesn't really matter. Click on send, this one's going to contact, and there you go, we've got a nice success. Okay, that's awesome, so we've got a nice connection working. We've got a simple HTTP request. And now instead of getting just a result, let's actually print out the data that we received from that PHP script. For that, we need to go on the Unity web request and set up a download handler. And for that, we create a new download handler buffer. Yep, there you go, this one. So then when everything is completed, then we can access the same download handler, and we can basically grab the text directly. Since we're going to be returning strings, yep, this works fine. So let's do a debug log on this and try to see if this works. So here we are, and if I click on send, there you go, sends nothing, receives a success, and there you go, we've got the message. All right, awesome. So we've got message coming from the PHP endpoint. Now we can actually try to send some actual data. Right now we're not sending any data. And for that we need to figure out how exactly are we going to send that data, meaning how exactly are we going to structure it. And the simplest way, the easiest way is really just using JSON. If you don't know about JSON, I actually have multiple tutorials on it. So first let's define a type to store our JSON data that we want to send. So let's make it a struct just because it never changes. Let's call it live chat send message JSON data. Then inside, let's store a string for the actual message we want to send. Now importantly, for this one to be sent, we need to make sure to mark this type as serializable. And then over here, first of all, we can create it. So live chat message JSON data. We can create a brand new one. And inside for the data, for the message equals our message right there. Then we convert this into JSON. So we use JSON utility to JSON, convert this live chat message data. So if this returns our JSON string that we want to send, and then we just want to send this. So for that, we can go in the Unity web request and create a new upload handler. And this one, let's use the new upload handler raw. We're going to send some raw bytes. So that means we need to convert our JSON into some raw byte data. This is going to be the body of our request. So let's define a byte array for the body raw byte array. And over here, we can go inside encoding, inside UTF-8, and call getBytes, and pass in our JSON string just like this. So yep, we've got our array of bytes, and then we can send this with our request. So yep, with this, we're going to send it. Now we just need to make sure the HTTP web server that won't realize that this is some JSON data. So let's go on the Unity web request. Let's set the request header. And request header, we're going to modify the content type, and we're going to say that it is application/JSON. Okay, great, just like this. So then when we send the request, it is going to send this data, which in this case is going to send our message. So that's great. Now over here on the endpoint side, let's actually receive that. Let's basically receive that, read that JSON, and then basically send it back just for testing. So for that, the easiest way that I know of getting this is basically using file get contents. This is a PHP function to read the contents of a file, and that can be a file or it can actually be the input. So we can access php//input. This is basically going to be what this script is receiving as input, which is basically going to be our post data. So this is going to be a raw data, and then we need to convert it. So let's say our actual post data, basically do a JSON decode in order to decode our raw data. Okay, yep, just like this. And now if we send things correctly, we should be able to have the post data and then access the member named message. So let's do an echo on this, and then let's also exit. And yep, let's see if this one now returns the exact same thing that we sent. So back over here inside Unity, let's write something. Hello and welcome, I'm your code monkey. Let's try to send. And there you go, that one sends a message success, and there you go, yep, we've got it back. All right, awesome, so just like this, we've got a message going one way and coming back. All right, awesome. So now that we have data being sent back and forth, it's being sent into the server. Now to make the live chat work, we need to store that message somewhere so we can then read it. So this is where the database comes in. And in my website, I have PHP MyAdmin installed. So I'm going to be using this to create a new table. So for the table name, let's call it live chat tutorial. Then for the structure of this new table, let's always begin with some kind of ID. Let's make it a primary index. So yes, this is a primary index, and let's auto increment it. And then we're going to need to store the message. This one is going to be of type text. And then in this case, what I wanted to build was basically a live chat so that students can talk to me. So basically there's only one sender and one receiver. The senders are always the student and the receiver is always me. So over here, you need some kind of data to identify the sender and the receiver. But if you only have two, if you can only send from one place and receive it in one place, then you can just use something like isAdmin. So basically it's either a user talking to the admin or the admin sending a message to the user. Again, like I mentioned here, I'm covering the most basic thing, but of course you can obviously build upon this. You could definitely have multiple more fields for storing multiple users talking to one another and so on. But over here, let's keep it simple, just one user talking to one admin. And finally, we can also store a timestamp that can be useful sometimes. That way we know when the message was sent. So yep, that's it. This is our table. We've got an ID, so that is our incrementer. Yep. Then we've got message, that's some text. isAdmin just to define is this a reply or not. And then the timestamp of when this message was sent. So if that's it, let's save this table. And okay, so here's our nice table. Now that this is created, now we can add some stuff onto it. So back in our endpoint, so here we've got the message. So over here, let's store that message inside of our table. And the way we do that is, first of all, we need to create our SQL connection. So for that, we do new MySQLi, and this one takes in a bunch of data. So we need to define the MySQL hostname. Then we need to define the MySQL username. Then define the MySQL password. And then define the MySQL database name. Okay, yep, so naturally you need to fill this in with your data. And then over here, for the connection, set it up. So the MySQL host name. Then we've got the MySQL username. Then we've got the MySQL password. And finally, the MySQL database name. And this one returns our MySQLi. By the way, your credentials over here, for example, the password, usually this should not be hard-coded directly inside a script. Again, over here in this tutorial, I'm focusing on the most simple implementation just to show you how you can build a live chat window. But of course, when working with anything using web browsers, using people sending data to your web server, you always need to take into account security. And over here, the password should be stored somewhere safe and not directly over here on the source code. But over here, for a simple use case, over here, this works just for learning how it works. So we've got MySQL, and then we can just insert our data. So we can define our SQL query. And here, let's write some basic SQL. So we want to insert this into our table. So insert into. Then for the table name, which we named it live chat tutorial. And then the parameters that we want to save. So back into our structure. So the ID, that one increments automatically. So we don't need to add that one. But we do need to send the message isAdmin or the timestamp. So let's send the message isAdmin and the timestamp. And then for the values, let's put 3 question marks like this. So then we can take this, we can create a prepared statement, go into MySQLi and we call prepare and pass in our SQL query. Then basically go into our statement and we call bind underscore param to bind our parameters that we want to send. And for the parameters, the message is going to be of type string. So these are the types. Then isAdmin, that one is an int, and the timestamp, that one is also an int. And then for those parameters, for the message, let's first of all grab those. So the message, we go inside the post data and we grab the message. Except again, like I said, when it comes to receiving data from the users, you should never ever trust the client. So over here, it is very important to keep this safe. So let's go MySQLi and call escape string. So we escape the string so we don't get any SQL injections. Let's receive that one. Then for isAdmin, let's say 0. And for the timestamp, we just grab the time directly from PHP. So and then we send these. So we send the message, we send the isAdmin, and finally the timestamp like this. Okay, we have our parameter statement, and then statement just call execute in order to run our query. And yep, that should do it. So basically we create a new connection, we prepare our data, we prepare our SQL query, then we create the prepared statement, and we execute the prepared statement. So like this, we should be able to add some messages into our database. So back in Unity, let's go ahead and send the same thing. So hello and welcome, I'm your code monkey. Let's go ahead and send this. And yep, it is going to send. And now if I refresh the database, and if there it is, we have some data added. All right, awesome. So now that we can send some data, now let's do the opposite. Let's receive some data. So over here in our live chat window code, over here we got the function to send a message. Okay, let's make another one. So private void get messages. This one over here, we're basically going to do a very similar web request. So let's copy this. And then over here for data, we need to use a different data to know whether we are inserting a message or receiving a message. So we're going to need another structure to send some different JSON data. So that's the get message JSON data. This one does not take in a string for a message. Instead, let's use some kind of string to define the action type. And then over here, when we create this, so let's do it like this. When we create this, the action equals, let's say live chat get messages. And that's it. This one just takes the action. And then on the other one, let's also define an action. And over here for the action equals live chat send message. And by the way, here, let's also send an int for isAdmin. And then we're going to set isAdmin into 0. Okay. So then over here on the endpoint, so basically when we get all this, let's do a switch on the post data. Let's grab the action. And then in case we have the action for sending the message. So in case we have the live chat send message case, then we do all of this. So if that makes sense. In case we have the other one, so in case we have the live chat gets messages, then we do something else. Okay, so over here, basically we want to receive those messages and actually appear on timestamp. Let's go on the post data in order to grab the isAdmin. And as always, let's go ahead and escape it just in case. So then over here on the live chat get messages, we're basically going to do a different SQL query. So instead of an insert into, we're going to select, let's select everything from live chat tutorial. And again, like I said, if you were to expand upon this to support chatting between multiple users, this is where you would use some kind of where clause, where the chat equals this user to this user. But in this case, we're keeping things simple. Let's just grab everything from the live chat tutorial. So we're going to prepare that SQL. We're going to execute it. Now we just go on the statement and we call get result. This is basically going to return our result. And then from that result, we can call fetch a sock in order to get the associated array. This is basically going to be our query row. And obviously we don't want just one result, we want all of them. So let's do a while. So while this one is working, then we're basically going to want to return something. But actually for now, let's first return just one, just to make sure that it works. So let's do an echo on the query row. And let's grab the first one. Let's grab just the message. Okay, let's do that and then exit. Again, just for debugging, we're only going to grab the first message. So then back in the Unity side, so over here we've got live chat get messages. Okay, so we're going to get those. We're going to send that JSON data in order to get that. Yep, so we do all of this. And then we've got the result. And if the result succeeds, then we get the text, which should be the last thing that we receive there. So yep, now let's just go ahead and call get messages and let's call it directly over here on the create GUI. In a bit, we're going to run this periodically, but for now, let's run it just like this. So now I go ahead, I open up the window, and yep, there you go, it worked! Hello and welcome, I'm your code monkey. So yep, there you go, it does show. Now we just need to update the chat label over here, and then of course we need to receive multiple messages. So for the chat label, let's first of all get it. So this is going to be private of type label for the chat label, and we're basically going to get it. So very simply, label equals, let's go into root visual tree asset, doing a query looking for a label of type chat label. So we've got this chat label. And then after we do the get messages, we get those and get that one .text and set it to this text right here. So yep, let's open up and try to see. And there you go, it does fill it in. Okay, awesome. So now to continue our testing, let's send another message, which should send and it should be saved. Yep, there you go, another message and yet another one. Okay, so let's send a bunch more messages. Then over here, let's refresh our data. And if there you go, we've got 3 messages. Okay, great. So now over here, let's return all of them. So we can, for example, make a full message variable and start off with something. And then we've got the full message. And over here, when we go through each query row, let's add, and by the way, in PHP, it's dot equals, not plus equals. And then we add a new line. And then finally we return, meaning we echo our full message just like this. Okay, great. So now here in Unity, all we need to do is just open up the window again. And there you go, there it is. Hello and welcome. Another message, yet another one. All right, awesome. So with this, we already have quite a lot working. Now let's make the HTML side for the admin to be able to reply to the user. So over here, let's make a very simple web page. So let's start off with some kind of div. Let's say live chat. Let's put some little bit of style on there. So font weight, let's put it in bold. For the font size, let's put it on 30 pixels. Okay, we've got the live chat, then let's make another div. We're going to have the message log, and then we're going to have some buttons. So we've got input, type, let's make a text field. And we've got an input. This one is going to be a button, and with value, let's say send. So you have a very basic structure. And yep, there it is, some super basic HTML. Now let's write some JavaScript in order to be able to get those messages. So let's write a script and define a function, get live chat messages. Here, let's first of all define a XML HTTP request, doing a brand new one. So we go on the XML HTTP request, and let's open up the request. Let's do a post request. And for the URL, let's reach our endpoint. Then let's set the request header. We're going to send some JSON as well. So pretty much the same thing, content type, application JSON. And we're going to listen to the onReady state change. Let's listen to a function on this. So if the web request, if this one succeeds, so that is going to be the ready state equals 4, and the web request.status equals 200. Then we can access the web request, and we can access the response text like this. So if just like this, it should be working. We can do a quick test, do a console.log on this, and try to read the console. We just need to make sure to call this, so right on start, let's call it right away. Then of course we need to actually send the request, let's call send, and this is where we need to send along with our JSON data. So let's define the parameters that we need to send. So we're going to make a brand new JavaScript object. So go params and define, in this case, the action, and just need to make sure we use the same action. So over here we named this live chat get messages, so let's use this. And if this is the only parameters that we need, so let's go ahead and send it. But the code is expecting JSON, not an object. So let's use json.stringify, and let's stringify these parameters. So yep, that should do it. That should send it. Let's save and test. So over here, let's just do a reload and look in the console, and yep, there you go. It does work. Here we have the messages. All right, awesome. So now let's just update the message log. For that, we can just go inside the document, get element by ID. Then you just need to give this div some kind of ID, message log. So we've got this one, we get the element by the ID, then modify the inner HTML. This is basically the easiest way to do this. And let's just print out the response text, just put it just like that. Okay, let's test again. So here we are, and if I just refresh, and if there you go, it does work. All right, awesome. Let's also just add those new lines. So let's replace the new line with a HTML new line. Actually, it's not replace, it's replace all. Like this, it should work. And if there you go, it works. All right, awesome. Now let's make the send here work. So let's make another function to send a live chat message. So send live chat message. We're going to basically first need to get the message. We're going to do the same thing, the HTML request. We're going to send some JSON. Yep, over here when we get it, let's really just get the messages again. So then all that matters over here. Then you just need to remember the data that we need. The message is admin, and that's it. So over here for the action, that is the live chat send message. Then params dot, we've got the message itself. So for this, let's get the element by ID for the input text, and let's grab the value from it. And then we've got the is admin. In this case, is admin is true. Okay, written like this. Let's just make sure to name this. So over here for this one input ID equals our input text. And then for the button, we can write the onClick equals our send live chat message. And we really just call this function just like this. Okay, so when we click on send, we should be able to send this. We should be able to send the value inside the input text. And then when we get the messages, we should be able to get all of them. So yep, let's test. So here, let me say, hey again. Let's send the message. And there you go, hey again. And over here on the database, we can browse and we can see. And if there you go, hey again with admin as one. All right, awesome. Everything is working really great. We've got this web window where we can send messages as the admin. And we've got the nice Unity editor window where this one we can send messages as a student. So really just over here on the endpoint, we can go ahead for the message. So we can define some kind of sender. Let's say the sender is a simple user. And then if we can go inside the query row. And if the query row of is admin, if this one equals 1, if so, then we can say the sender equals the admin. If not, it's the user. So if we have that, and then we basically just write that, then the little colon, just like this. So now we know which one is the sender and which one is the user. So yep, if we just save this, and over here I can just refresh the live chat. And there you go, the user said this, said that, and that, and the admin said that. And over here in the Unity, same thing. Let's open up the window. And there you go, user, admin. Yep, there you go, everything works. All right, awesome. So if on something like this, we have everything working. We can really just make it update a little bit faster as opposed to constantly having to open the window. So over here on the HTML side, this is super simple. We basically just need to call this function periodically, which is very easy. We can just call our set interval in order to call live chat messages. And let's update those messages, let's say once per second. Yep, just like this. And then over here on the Unity script, on this one, it's a little bit trickier because it's a editor window, not a runtime window. But we can still implement a private void update. Except this one won't be running 60 times per second. It will run a relatively different amount of time per each frame. However, we can use the editor application. We can use this .time since startup, so we know how many seconds since the editor was starting. And we can basically check when is the next time we should be getting some messages. So let's define that up here. Define a private double next get messages time. So we have this, and then over here we can basically check. So if the time since startup is bigger than the next time that we should be getting those messages, then let's define that one again, equals the current time plus some kind of amount. Let's say once per second we're going to update, and then just call get messages like this. So just like this one should be periodically getting messages, and on the other side it should also be working as well. So yep, let's test everything. All right, so here it is. On this side, let's say, how are you doing? Let's send that message. There you go, it sends, how are you doing? How are you doing? Yep, there you go, that works. And over there we can see it is constantly grabbing the messages. So I'm doing great. Let's send that message back. And there you go, it is working. All right, awesome. So yep, here we have a nice connection between them. I can say anything, and I can send it from here, and I receive it over there. Anything else, and I can send it from here, receive it over there. And again, in this case, technically I'm using this on the same PC, but this is really just a web page. So these could be on completely different PCs and everything would work fine because again, it's just a connection handling through the internet. All right, awesome. And here is the final system that I built myself. This one has a bunch more features. So first of all, it actually has an offline online indicator. So when I'm offline, it shows that message and then shows whatever custom message I wrote. So in this case, I was walking my dog just a while ago, so that's why I set as offline. Here is the backend window. And up over here, I've got a button to set as offline or online. So right now I'm offline. And if I press on it, then suddenly I become online. And over there, that one updates right away. So that one says online. And now another thing that it has is on the original tutorial, over here we just made communication really just one way. So one person talking with one person. Whereas over here, obviously I need to be able to have multiple students talking to myself. So on this live chat window, on this one actually, before it shows the actual chat, it shows some kind of mini login window. Over here you have to input the email, and then basically that gets stored. So over here, email@email.com. And then over here on the backend, I basically have, let's say, different threads for each different emails. So here is email@email.com on the problem solving course, and it's saying this. And here it is, the email ASAF, just because it doesn't have to be an actual email, just on the problem solving course, also saying a bunch of stuff. So it's really just expanding upon the original idea that we built in this tutorial. And then of course I can say some kind of message, I can send it. And over here on the other side, yep, I get the messages and also implement the nice auto refresh. So when that one is on, it's basically just automatically refresh the window. And over here, I can already see the final message. And then I can reply, I can say something, I can reply back. And there you go, it sends a message back. And over there, yep, there you go, update. So everything nice and normal. So yep, with this, I can set online or offline. I can say, let's say the offline reason is I'm recording a video. I can do that. I can set myself as offline. And over there, yep, there you go, it shows up as offline. I'm recording a video. Be back when I can. So yep, I really just built upon the base that I showed in this tutorial. Just adding a bunch more custom features in order to suit my perfect needs. Alright, so if you want to learn the very valuable skill of problem solving, the skill that allows you to say something from idea to reality, just like we did here. I started with an idea, I want to make a live chat window. That was something that I had never done previously, but starting from that and following my problem solving framework, I was able to actually build something that actually exists. This really is the most valuable skill that I know. It's really the one thing that allows me to build pretty much anything I can imagine. If you also want to get that skill, then definitely check out my problem solving course. This is something that I've wanted to make for literally years, and now it's finally here. So if you're interested, check it out in the link in the description. I hope you learned a lot. And the course does have this live chat window, so if you pick it up, definitely make sure you use it. Ask me any questions you have, and I'll do my best to help you. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.